What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today I want to bring you news of the decks that went and won the French Grand Championship in Keyforge. The lovely Eddy Audibert, and I apologise for the pronunciation, sent me a message and went, "Hey Wossy, I went and won the French Grand Championship. I know this is the kind of thing you might make video about, so can I help at all?" I said, yeah. Now, the really awkward thing is, it was an Archon Triad, which means that you actually take 3 decks, which is kind of annoying. So we are going to have to run a little bit to get through all of the 3 decks with which he actually went and played. Now, Archon Triad as a format is like this. You take along 3 decks and you choose which ones that you take. Every round, each player gets to look at their 3 decks their opponent brought and chooses one to bench, making it unusable for that match. And then it is a best of 3, where when you win, you must switch deck, and the first player to win a game with both of their decks gets the win. So that's Archon Triad. It's a little bit cool. Now, what we don't have here is time to run through every deck in exhaustive detail. So what I'm going to do is run you through the main really good points of each deck, and then provide you with the free deck list so you can peruse them at your leisure. But let's just say that one of them certainly stands out as the star, and that is Morales. Look, they're all in Italian, so let's just call it Morales. Now, this is a deck that is actually 20-2, 20 wins, 2 losses, and now all 3 of the decks here are logos and shadows. 2 of them are dis, 1 of them adds untamed. And if we look here, this is actually an Age of Ascension deck, but it's brilliant. If we have a quick look at the Shadow Suite, we actually see treble Ronnie Risk Locks. When you play Ronnie, you steal an Amber, but if your opponent has 7 or more, you steal 2 instead. Being able to play 3 of these really does give you very, very nice options for Amber control, which is kind of lovely. Now, we also have Throwing Stars that deal 1 damage to up to 3 creatures and gain an Amber for each one that is destroyed, and there's actually 2 copies of that in there. And there is Skeleton Key, an artifact which has an action that captures an Amber. You're looking for Amber control and you get it. Now, we've also got both Life for a Life and the aforementioned Throwing Stars, which are really nice to get some cheeky damage on the field. And we've also got Sucker Punch, gain an Amber because of the Amber bonus, deal 2 damage to a creature if it destroys them, archive it. That's kind of fun. Moving over to Dis, we've actually got some really nice options for Amber rushing here, because there's 2 copies of Dust Imp and 2 copies of Exhume. That is to say, Dust Imp, when you destroy it, you gain 2 Amber. Exhume, choose a creature in your discard pile, play it as if it belonged to the active house. So you can either go Dust Imp to gain Amber or Ronnie to steal Amber. Double Exhume with treble Ronnie. Yeah, that seems pretty gosh darn good. Now, we've also got some really, really nice options for board wiping here. There's 2 copies of Free Fates that destroy the 3 most powerful creatures. We've got Pain Reaction, deal 2 damage to an enemy creature. If it destroys it, deal 2 damage to each of its neighbours. But then we've also got Unlocked Gateway. So if you're really worried here, don't just clear the board and start again. Now, one thing I love here is that we've actually got Misery Exploit. Misery Exploit is great. You gain 1 Amber for each damaged enemy creature, and because you've got double Throwing Stars, which can damage 3 different creatures, and then you've got stuff like Pain Reaction, this is going to work quite nicely. Now, logos in Age of Ascension is not generally seen as particularly amazing, but there's a lot of good stuff going on here. We've got Wild Wormhole that everybody loves. We've got Archimedes, which is very nice for archiving, well, your creatures when it gets destroyed. But we've got 2 copies of Cutthroat Research. It's not an amazing card. It takes your opponent down from 8 Amber to 6 by stealing 2. They still, unfortunately, get to forge a key. But the thing is, it still helps in terms of stealing Amber for your next key. But we've also got 2 copies of standardized testing, which destroys each creature with the highest and lowest power. That does include yours. But again, that works really nicely with all of the board wiping we saw in this. And then we've got interdimensional graft. If your opponent forges a key, they must give you the remaining amber. We've then even got a little bit of artifact control. We've got remote access, and we've got Tentacus. Now, Tentacus makes them pay, but still stops them using an artifact. And I didn't even mention earlier that we got Tesmal for a little bit of house cheating, or house control, really. Make sure your opponent has to choose a particular house. And what we're left with is a deck which has got good options for amber control, good options for board control. It's got some options for artifact control. Yes, Necklifter also takes control of enemy artifacts, while also having a decent amount of amber, and you can see why it's really the star of the show. Not to be outdone, however, we've got Dr. N. Belavan, a 99 SAS deck, which is pretty gosh darn ridiculous, and oh look, it's a Time Traveler deck. We've seen Time Traveler winning for many a year, well, many a tournament. The game as a whole has not even been out an entire year yet. Whoopsie daisy. But what we have here is a really nice option for drawing cards and getting a little bit of amber. And if we stick in logos for a minute, we also have a couple of Mother. Mother lets you draw until you have 1 extra card at the end of your turn. Having 2 of them, yeah, that's pretty gosh darn nice. Then we've got Quixo the Adventurer, who's got Skirmish to guarantee that you survive the fight, while also having a fight skill that lets you draw a card there. And then we got nice stuff like Fogify that stops your opponent using creatures to fight on their next turn. And we got Valiant Analyst, whereby each time you use an artifact, you gain yourself an amber. And, you know, there's 4 artifacts in the deck, so yeah, you're going to be all right. Once again, we do see a little bit of the old shadows, and it's for the same stuff we'd usually expect. We've got a couple copies of Urchin, who can steal amber. We got a couple copies of Relentless Whispers, and a copy of Nerve Blast, which is all pretty good at stealing amber, though you'd get a bit of cheeky damage going on there as well. We've actually got Speed Sigil, which I like a lot, because it makes the first creature each turn come into play ready, but that is for both you and your opponent. So, it's not ideal, shall we say. But then we've got Noddy the Thief, who's got an action that steals an amber as well. So we want amber control in Shadows, and we absolutely have it. Looking over in Dis, what we're looking for is a little bit of disruption, and I love the Dis suite here. We've got Gateway to Dis if you're looking for a complete board wipe, which oftentimes you will be. We've got a couple of copies of Charette that captures free amber when played, which gives you amber control in Dis, which is really, really nice. And 3 copies of Gongoozle. You deal 3 damage to a creature while gaining an amber, but if it's not destroyed, your opponent discards a random card from their hand. Incidentally, we've also got Mind Barb that makes your opponent discard a random card from their hand. That's some pretty good hand disruption. And that's before we've mentioned Life Word to stop your opponent playing creatures. Bearing in mind, Fogify stops your opponent using them to fight. And then Dominator Bauble that lets you house cheat and use a friendly creature from one of your other houses. And we've got a good Dis suite going on here. It doesn't have quite the win rate of Morales, and I don't like it quite as much, but it's still a 99 SAS Time Traveler deck with great amber control, so let's be clear, it's still pretty gosh darn good. And then if we end up having a little bit of a look at Prowler Cieltsoria, once again, I told you my pronunciation wasn't going to be great. You were warned, ladies and gentlemen. You were warned. We see a 100 SAS deck with a pretty impressive win rate of its own. And we've still got logos and shadows, but we add in Untamed here. Why are we adding in Untamed? Because, oh my goodness, the amber rushing. This has an expected amber of 29. For anyone that's not in the know, that's ridiculous. 2 copies of Hunting Witch. Each time you play another creature, gain an amber. Then we've got 2 copies of Flaxia, which gains you 2 amber if you control more creatures than your opponent. Then we've got a Dust Pixie that gives you 2 amber when you play it. Then we've got Regrowth that returns a creature from your discard pile to your hand, while giving you an amber bonus, and there's 2 of them. Then we've got Nature's Call that returns up to 3 creatures to their owner's hands, bearing in mind you've got 2 Hunting Witch, which means that you're going to want to be picking up and replaying creatures very, very often. With a Hunting Witch down, if you play Dust Pixie, you gain 3 amber. And then, of course, we've got 7 creatures total. This is going to gain you a lot of amber very, very quickly indeed. It's kind of phenomenal. Outside of that, that's fine, but really, yeah. I do like Ritual of Balance, incidentally. It's got an action. If your opponent has 6 amber or more, you steal 1. Really nice if your opponent's got exactly 6 amber. It will take them off of check. In terms of shadows, we want amber control, and it's all right. It's pretty good. We've got Fagin and Double Urchin, which is pretty nice. Then we've got the upgrade Dusk Runner, which brings in a little bit more stealing. It basically says that when a creature reaps, it also steals an amber, which is pretty gosh darn nice. And we've got Bait and Switch, which is good, but remember the nerf really limits it to stealing 2 amber now. But then we've still got stuff like Poison Wave and Special Delivery and Pawn Sacrifice to get ourselves a little bit of creature control in there as well, which is the other thing that Shadows is really good at. And then we get to logos. And it does kind of what we would expect. We've got 3 copies of Lab Work, which gives you good archiving. Stash the best cards in your archive ready for later. We've got Phase Shift to get a bit of house cheating, and Wild Wormhole to just play the top card of your deck while giving you an amber bonus. They're a really nice pair. We've then got Library of Babel to give yourself just a little bit of extra draw power. And another Double Mother. Yes, that is the second Double Mother deck we've seen so far. Oh, that seems pretty good. Yes, it is pretty good. Oh yeah, and the Howling Pit. During each player's draw card step, each player refills their hand to 1 additional card. And between Howling Pit and your Double Mother, you're going to be drawing, and Library of Babel, that essentially equates to an extra 4 cards a turn, which means that you are going to be building up to a rather gigantic turn with Untamed. What I do find very interesting here is that although all 3 of these decks are good, and they are, they've all got good options for amber, they've all got good amber control, they've all got good creature control, the last one a bit less, but they've still all got options. What we do see here is 0 key cheating cards across all 3 decks. But I don't think you need to key cheat when all your decks are this gosh darn good. So there we go. I've not done a video looking at a Triad winner yet, just because looking at 3 decks in one is quite awkward, but let me know how I did. Let me know if this is the kind of video you want. Let me know if you'd rather have a longer video with a slightly more in-depth look at all 3 decks. Let me know if it's just not quite enough. Go nuts in the comment section. Please be nice. And also, huge thank you and shout out to Eddy for providing me with the information and making my life very, very easy indeed. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you check out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can get weekly bonus podcasts and support the channel and all that good stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.